Well, how can I feel I matter? Well, start by helping other people feel they matter. You have the power within you to make other people feel that they matter. And if you start with that, it'll just roll right over you as well. That there were certain things that you did, and if you did these actions, then you became more hopeful rather than being pie in the sky. Well, just think positive thoughts. There's some concrete actions that tie in really nicely. And if you do all of that, you build the foundation for a more hopeful perspective on life.
So difficult times could also lead to perhaps some positive change with the right actions.
Those negative experiences have ways of strengthening you. It's not fun going through them, but when you come out the other side, you come out stronger for it.
Is there a certain mindset that helps people? Because not everyone does. Some people get a challenge and it can spiral them into feeling immobilized, not taking action, stuck, dissatisfied. And I know I've had that in my journey too, but
Yeah.
what would you say?
I'll tell you something quite personal.
I just want to quickly thank you for beginning to watch this podcast episode. If you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to do so. Would love it if you join our community. You'll also be up to date on the latest content, and this really helps me reach out to more guests. You can also visit our website, centerformindfulness.ca. There's free events about mindfulness and laughter. Hope you enjoy this episode. This is Dr. Kasim Al-Mashat, registered psychologist and mindfulness teacher from the Center for Mindfulness Canada in Vancouver. I'm interested in sharing conversations that can support you in understanding your mind to transform your life. I'm truly thrilled to introduce today's guest, Dr. Norman Amundson. First, a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I am so thrilled because we're reconnecting after about 12 years or so. And Dr. Amundson has made quite an impact on my life and the life of many people. So if you're not familiar with his work, I'll read a little bio because we're going to cover quite a bit of ground from hope, career, mindfulness, a lot of things. So let me begin with this bio. So Dr. Norm Amundson is a professor emeritus from the University of British Columbia in Canada and Vancouver. He has worked in the career development field for over 40 years and published many books and articles, including a 2018 anniversary edition of his nationally award-winning book, Active Engagement. Actually, I still have one of the earlier editions. Most recently, he has co authored the books Career Flow and Development, Hope in Action, which is really interesting, by the way. I would love us to talk about that, the hope in action theory, and as well as Career Recovery, creating hopeful careers in difficult times. His work emphasizes the importance of creativity, imagination, storytelling, dynamic action, metaphors, and you guessed it, hope. Dr. Amundson has presented his work at many national and international conferences in more than 30 countries. He's also been recognized by many national and international associations for leadership and contributions in the career development field. His trainings and workshops are practical, engaging, and interactive. So, warm welcome to you again. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. So I wonder, there's so many things that I'd love to ask you and explore with you, but I wonder if we can begin at the beginning. Because before you became Dr. Amundson, this world-renowned in your field, what was your journey? What's your story that led you to have this pull of creating this work that's around hope and career guidance? And I wonder if you can share what led you to that.
That's interesting because it's something I've thought about a lot is how did I, and the first work I did was working with people who were unemployed. And one of the things, in growing up, I mean, one of the things I really believe is that a lot of the seeds are planted early in early life and they do blossom out. And one of the seeds for me was my father during my high school years. He went through a period where he was working in a job for the Canadian Pacific Railway, and he was a person who sold the tickets, the ticket agent
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But he started developing, and we lived in a small town in Saskatchewan. And in that town, people would come to him, and they wouldn't come just for a ticket on a train. They'd come on a ticket to, he would send them on journeys to the home country, or, he became like a travel agent. And that was before there
Oh,
were travel agents. So he would do everything, boats and hotels, everything. And he was building quite a successful little business within the CPR.
oh wow. That's creative.
Very creative. And then they shut down all the small towns across the country
Mm,
because they weren't making enough money. His particular office was, but there was a lot of other small towns, obviously, that weren't. So he became not unemployed, but underemployed.
mm,
He moved him from being this ticket agent to he counted the box cars that were going past, and paid. And so it was kind of a terrible situation.
um,
And because our income as a family dropped dramatically, I was doing well in school and I was thinking of going to university, and we had low family income and all of this kind of turmoil around where he was going, what we were doing. And he eventually did, we relocated to Regina, Saskatchewan,
mhm,
and the big city.
mhm,
For us, he found a very good job working as a purchasing supervisor for the city. And he went on to sort of have, but there was this interruption period, this period of
mm.
turmoil. And I couldn't help but think that my interest in helping people and figure out their life and what they were doing was somehow influenced by this, because it was all during my teenage years
Oh
that I was,
yeah.
like going to university and not sure if we had enough money for that, and all this kind of thing happening.
Mm,
I remember actually I won a scholarship, a big government scholarship, and
mhm,
it had two amounts: one for people who were from the small towns,
mhm.
but a larger amount. But if you were from a city, then you got a smaller amount. But we had moved from the small town to the city, but I still had the big grant for the. So I finally,
Smart.
okay, I sort of felt I need to sort of confess. So I went to them and said, like I have this big grant, and it's two amounts, and I have the larger amount, but now I'm living in Regina, so it probably should be the smaller amount.
Oh, you were wanting to give it back.
I wanted to give it back.
Oh wow.
And the person said, "Get out of my office. Don't bother me anymore." He just looked at me like there was something wrong with me, like nobody gives back scholarship money. So that was kind of an experience. And, I found myself working, eventually ending up sort of helping people, career questions that they had and things like that, and working with unemployment, but also working with people who were employed and were thinking of change, because
Yeah.
kind of decisions aren't just when you're unemployed or when you're a high school student and wanting what should I take. They're decisions that you make throughout life. That's one of my starting points, I think, was that experience.
So as an actual interruption, as you named it, as an interruption in your father's work that led to this change. I love how you use the metaphor of the seeds. And I know you use metaphors.
Yeah,
I can see it in my mind. Like here are some seeds that interruption or difficult times could also lead to perhaps some positive change with the right action.
that's something I've seen over and over again in my life,
Mm,
is that some of those interruptions, those negative experiences, have ways of strengthening you. Once you get through them, it's not fun going through them, but when you come out the other side, and it does seem like you come out the other side, or you come out stronger for it.
there's something though about the perspective of choosing to use these seeds like the challenges as raw material. And I wonder, before we go into, there's so many things about your action theory and practical things I want to get into, but what would you say you've, over your years of experience, is there a certain mindset that helps people who choose to do that? Because not everyone does. Some people get a challenge or interruption and it can spiral them into feeling immobilized, not taking action, stuck, dissatisfied. And I know I've had that in my journey too. But what
Yeah.
would you say? Is there a common?
I'll tell you something quite personal.
Mm,
In the 90s, in the early 1990s,
mm,
my work was going well, things were happening. I was working with groups, and all of a sudden, I had one group that didn't go quite well, and then I started to dwell on it, and led to sort of having panic attacks in my life. And it started with one group, and then pretty soon it moved to another, it got
mm,
bigger, and I almost felt like it was a weed, and I felt like it was a weed, the metaphor I would use, it was a weed that had gotten hold in my mind and was taking over. And it started from, a small event, a small little negative event, and it grew and grew to the point where whenever I went into a classroom, I felt like, at the start of things, I couldn't manage it. Once I got going, it was fine. And I had
mhm.
a colleague thing that sort of, I would say, look, you start it, and then I can come in, but I can't
Ah,
start. I became immobilized by that. And I thought, my career, I'm a teacher at the university. And, my whole career is kind of finished if I can't, it becomes something that you can't always have somebody beside you to say, you start and then I'll,
that's right. They
take it up.
begin, yeah, tag team.
Yeah.
That's right.
So then I thought, how do I get through this? What is it that's going to help
Mm,
me? I prayed about it. In the end, I thought, I just have to persevere. I have to be courageous.
mm,
And so what I did, instead of what happens when you're panicking is that you don't really want to then engage in those kind of activities. You start to withdraw.
yes.
And what I found was that if I didn't, well, let's say instead of withdrawing, I just took on every opportunity to speak into a group. And I would get lots of people say, come and speak to my group. And I just said, I'm saying yes to everything. And
Mm,
so I went and I stumbled and I made it through. And then all of a sudden, I came out the other side. And it was like no group, no matter how large, how small, could bother me.
wow.
And that led to another part of my career journey, which was I became an international speaker.
Mm,
I I spoke in over 30 different countries. I
mm,
had groups, conferences and all sorts of things. But I couldn't have done that if I hadn't gone through that panic
wow.
attack period. And I don't know that I could ever even have imagined, for me getting through it, didn't have the foresight to say, oh, well, if I get through this, this will help me with,
Or
this
it
and
will
this.
lead to this or this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to let all I could focus on is one step at a time. Just say yes. Just do it. See if you
Mm,
can get through that and take it again and again. And eventually it just seemed that this growing weed that was in my mind just shriveled. And suddenly I could look at people and I could engage with audiences and I could be right from the beginning and I didn't feel the tension that was bringing up inside of me.
what a story of actual, real courage of facing something that can be so terrifying
Yeah.
and choosing, to turn towards it. Like you chose to take another step, do it again, expose yourself to groups, being in front of people. Like you chose, like the easier way would have been to not do that. The easier way would have been like life will get smaller though, but it's more comfortable. But
I heard people talk about run towards the danger.
yeah.
And I'm not sure that I can follow that in all situations,
Yes.
but in that kind of context,
Mm,
face face it and don't run from it. I think it's the running away that
mm,
helps the negative thought processes take over and gain hold and kind of pushing everything else aside. And pretty soon, it's like you just can't imagine yourself and how you've let yourself get like that. And yet you can come out of it. And so I really would offer people, that sense of hopefulness
Mm.
over, it is possible. And even, and sometimes it's surprise, surprise
Mm.
what
Yeah.
happens. I mean, open yourself up to surprise.
Oh, how beautiful. Opening ourselves up to a surprise and just taking one step.
Yeah.
Just taking
Once.
one step, one step. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that because so many people can relate to this. I know I can relate to challenges and difficulties that everything in me wants to run away from.
Yeah.
And then the facing, the turning to it is what really creates the change. So here's a pivotal shift, the taking step, being willing to be surprised by facing the difficulty and creating this change. So that kind of propelled you to continue in your work, your career. I wonder, you have this beautiful theory and model that you co-developed, and it's action theory, hope action theory. And before we get into it, I wonder, how can we even define hope? Because sometimes hope, and I love hope for viewers who are just listening. I do have the sign behind that I've had for years. Hope. It's been
Oh,
in, yeah, yeah. So like for me, it's very meaningful. But I wonder, how would you define hope or help people understand hope? Is it
well, I
wishful
think
thinking? Is it
yeah, what we're really talking about there is because a lot of times people use hope and optimism and they use them interchangeably. And we sort of separated those two. And the hope we're talking about is something that is built on competencies, it's on action, on doing something.
Mm.
So it's not just a something that just a fancy thought I had or something. I'm hopeful about tomorrow or something like this. It's actually doing something about.
Oh.
And when I'm talking about doing, I'm talking about it at several different levels. I mean, it can be something as simple as mindfulness.
Mm.
That's a doing,
Yes, yes.
right? And it can be something as simple as, when I told you my story of taking on those challenges one day at a time, like that's
Mm.
actions. So we took these two words together because it isn't just the hope part, it's then the action that kind of fits
Mm.
together with it to strengthen it. And so it's a strong form of hope. It's based in doing, both doing and being together,
Mm.
integrated.
This is so beautifully said because it's not hope wishful theory, it's hope
Oh,
action.
sure. Yes.
So it's actually, bringing, so it does lean into some optimism, like I'm going to be hopeful that this step will lead me closer. So is it, would you say it has, hope has optimism as well?
Yeah, yeah. It leads
Yes.
to optimism as becomes a part of it. But it's really what we've realized that there were certain things that you did. And if you did these actions, then you became more hopeful. And
Mm.
so to when they say, how can I increase my hope rather than being pie in the sky? Well, just think positive thoughts or, and no, it's nothing wrong with thinking positive thoughts, but I think there's some concrete actions that tie in really nicely. And if you do all of that, you start to build the foundation for a more hopeful perspective on life.
So this hope action theory then can support not just in career guidance.
No,
This is actually very practical. I don't know if I'll call it a system, but like a way to think through things.
it's life,
Yeah. Yeah.
really looking at it, not just career or jobs or any of this. I mean, that's part of it, but it's a system that is broader and
Mm.
takes in all of life's choices and attitudes and how we sort of exist in this world. And so it became sort of a nice way for me to start thinking about how do people assess where they're at and how do they build hope. And you see, one of the things that they found is that
Mm.
people talk a lot of, I mean, what makes you have success in life, and it's often a sense of hopefulness. People who are able to maintain hope in difficult times, they stay the course much. It's a strengthening kind of action process.
It keeps us doing what you shared earlier. Just take next step forward, next
And
step
next,
forward. Yeah.
yeah, and
It's,
so and so some of these things some people do think, and what we realized when we started looking at this is that some people do have some actions, they do them quite well,
mm,
but it's a broad array of actions. And so helping people to figure out where's your strength, where's the areas of weakness that maybe you needed to work on a little bit more. And we find from a career perspective, often when people find themselves in a problem in life, they want to just jump on to action. Let's get going on this. Let's do
oh,
something, right? Let's
yeah.
send over, let's do, and so they jump to these actions, but they avoid things like self-reflection, clarity, and visioning. And so they want to sort of jump ahead
Fix
and
it.
fix it.
Fix
Let's
it
fix
quickly. Yeah, let's quickly. Let's
it.
get her over with and move on to the next. Like there, yeah, yeah.
It's a fix it mentality.
Yeah. Maybe I'll share your beautiful model. It's such a visual, this pinwheel. And I wonder if we can speak, if you can share a little bit about it to give everyone this idea of how actually practical this is. And there is even an inventory, a hope action inventory that can be done. And I have to tell you, I did it last night, and I'll put a link below for anyone interested. It's only like a couple of bucks. It's so worth it because when I did it, in my mind, it surprised me. The area that I need to work on was visioning. And
Uh,
it's so interesting because for the last couple of months, it's been quite full professional training in mindfulness, working with my clients one on one, doing events. It's been quite busy. And I've been feeling I need more space to kind of plan a little further ahead, visioning. But I didn't think of it in these terms. I just need like to imagine more. And when I did the inventory, and then you get emailed the results, but not just you get emailed the results, it gives you suggestions. Like, here's a question to think about. Like mine was, let's see here where I have it right here. This was really neat. Maybe I'll share this before we share the model because I thought this is brilliant. It's not just do an assessment and our result, but it actually models what the model is about. Here's where you can take action. And I love that. So for me, yeah, I love that. So here it is. Visioning for me, it says consider which life roles are most important to you and what you would like to accomplish in each of these roles in the next 2 years. Revisit your future scenarios. Like there's a couple of questions I thought that's brilliant. I take on that. That's going to be my homework over the next 2 weeks. I actually already carved time to do that. I just want to say thank you already. This has been practical for me, and I know it can support a lot of people. Very practical. So I'll put the link to the assessment if anyone is interested. Hope Action Fury inventory. So I wonder if you can share a little bit about the pinwheel, even like how,
yeah.
just the visual of the pinwheel.
Well, we had these ideas, but we needed a model to use, and so we went through several different ideas and everything, and we came up with the idea of a pinwheel. And because a pinwheel is something that moves around, it's well, here's the if you look at it,
Mhm. Yes.
it's something that you blow on, and then the wind that's moving a pinwheel is the environment. Environment
Mm,
is a big context out there. It influences us, and we influence it. But at the center of this model is hope, and of course
mm,
it stands there. And we took self. People often talk about self understanding or something.
mhm,
We split it into two pieces. We split it into self reflection and self clarity. And those are kind of different, we thought. And self reflection, it's the pause, it's stopping what you're doing, it's getting out of the busyness of life, and it's saying, let's just, instead of rushing into solving a problem, to fixing it, as you said,
Yeah.
Let's just stop for a minute. Let's think about what we're doing. And I think that's where mindfulness really comes in, because that's the pause. It's this
Mm.
thing, who am I? What's my meaning in life? Where am I headed? My purpose? Do I have,
Mm.
what do I, you know, getting to understand yourself at a deeper kind of level. And that's the self-reflective piece, which many people don't, we're trying, it's a society of doers, a society.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we're also a society where there's a cult of what I call a cult of busyness.
Yes. We glorify busyness. Like
Glorify it.
we glorify, like, how are you? Oh, busy. Like,
Oh, so busy. I'm
yeah.
so busy. And whoever is the busiest is the one who's the highest up the pinnacle. And so it's that busyness and running around and stuff that gets us in trouble, because we don't leave ourselves time
Mm.
for self-reflection. So in some ways, you just need to stop the busyness, just slow
Mm.
down and give yourself that pause, a time to sort of, instead of rushing to the problem. Sometimes I think that the rushing to the problem is the problem.
Yeah. It's
I
kind of
mean,
knee jerk.
huh?
It's a
Yeah,
knee jerk, boom. Yeah.
get to work on it, and you say, no, no, that's not the place to start.
Mm.
A better place to start is to say, okay, what's happened here? What's this all about? And getting to stop and sort of reflect on who you are and where you are in life and what's happening and what's important to you. And, having those kind of thoughts at a bigger kind of level, and not feeling that you need to generate activity
Mm.
other than that is an activity. You see, we call that a competency, that you
Ah, the self-reflection is a competency,
the
a
competency,
pause.
a pause, the act,
Yeah.
the act of pausing. The self-clarity comes when you
Mm.
start to say, okay, so what are my interests and my values, and what's my personality like, and what skills do I carry, and what are my opportunities? It's when you start to really understand yourself, and often
Mm.
that's all that psychologists think about, is they say, okay, well, I got to help you understand yourself better. And,
Mhm.
they kind of work on that self clarity bit, but
Mm.
it has the other component. They fit together.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing about the pinwheel model, is these pieces, again, you see
Mhm. Mhm.
the, the overlap, and they fit, and they're centered.
Yes.
And so
They're integrated into each other.
they're integrated into it.
Yeah.
And if you actually look at the bottom of a pinwheel, you'll see that there's overlap.
So these are so connected. This self-reflection, so many forms. It could be mindfulness, and personally, it's made such a drastic impact in my life. Mindfulness, which
Yeah.
really, it's been 20 years of just practicing, and then challenges in life that led me to kind of take it more seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Loss, health issues. It's like, wow, I need to pause
Yeah.
and create this time and space to be with me, get to know what's happening. And I found the combination of that as well with journaling is so helpful. And if
Mhm.
anyone is curious, I have a YouTube about how to journal. So that might be supportive, like getting to know some of these insights. But mindfulness, it's not just about sitting and emptying the mind, which there's a misconception. Sit and
Yeah.
empty the mind, or not. It's actually getting to know what's happening. And if anyone's curious, we have free information sessions about mindfulness at our center that are free. So you can see the link below, and you're welcome to join.
And what you're describing there is they're active, aren't they?
Mm.
I mean, as you said, it isn't just emptying your mind and sitting there. It's actually doing something with your mind. It's
Yeah.
focusing it in a different kind of direction, uh, rather than externally focused, more internally focused.
Mm.
It's interesting to me that, we talk about our identity and who we are as people. identity is closely connected to how other people see you. We actually think we own an identity, and yet so much of our identity is externally derived.
Yeah.
It's people treat you in a certain way, and that creates, and that's why people, they'll say, if somebody's having problems, you need to change your friends, or you need to
Yes.
get more positive or something like that, like, because that does play a role. And so understanding how we don't take enough time to just understand who we are,
Mm,
because so much of it is dependent on how other people see us.
yeah. It reinforces whatever we believe, good or bad.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Those are two components. And
Mhm.
the third component is visioning, the one you had mentioned earlier. And the idea to step forward into the future, to
Mm,
see where you are. And we do exercises with people where we have them actually physically walk, like we'll take, and we do them online as well as in person. Here you are today, where you are right now. Where will you be and you might be dealing with a problem is really a challenge for you. It might be fun for people to do. I'll take you through an exercise. I work closely with my daughter, Andrea,
yes.
and she has an exercise called vantage points.
Oh, would love that.
And so what she does and is just to sit quietly where you are right now.
Mm,
Think about a problem that you might be facing, any type of problem in your life. You're not going to have to share this with anyone. So
mm,
it's just something for you. Okay. You think, when you're ready for that, then start to think, what would it be like if a miracle happened and you could solve that problem? Like if it could be, you could overcome it, what would
mm,
it be like?
mm,
And to get to that miracle, that's going to happen today.
mm.
And this is incorporating something that we call is called the miracle question, coming out of solution focus.
Solution focus, prefer. Yes.
But let's get up from our computers
Yes.
and just walk towards the miracle, walk towards the solution. So take yourself where you are, and maybe I'll just stand, and you sort of move yourself to a place where you can say, yes, it's finished. Don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just take yourself to the spot where you can say, yes, it's complete. I've finished. Somehow I got here. I don't know how, but I'm here. And enjoy that. And that's the visioning, right? The moving forward into where the problem's solved. And once you're there, look back to where you came from. Look back and think about what was it that helped you make that. I mean, you had to, maybe you had to get around a chair, or maybe there's something else, or what are those things that are in the way that are stopping you from getting to here? Okay. Now I want you to come back to where you are and think about how did you get to where you are right now?
Mm,
So look, like at what are, in other words, you don't look just forward, but you start to look backwards. And how did you get there? Where do you want to go? What are the steps? And then you start thinking about what, not like, how can I run to the other side? I mean, to the solution. How could I take one step? What would be
mm.
that first step? Kind of relates back to what I said earlier about just that one step at a time.
Yes.
Visioning is about seeing the future, but it's also about then kind of stepping into the future, stepping
Mm,
forward. What is that first? You've talked about, you want visioning is low. So what would happen if you really expanded
Mm,
that visioning capacity, what's the first thing that you would need to have to do? And so you'd think about, and you've already said it, you've said, I've done this in my life and I'm getting busier and busier. That's the vision going backwards, looking at where you
mm,
came from. And now the visioning forwards is to stop some things, to give yourself space. Take one step. You're not going to get there immediately. Just take that one step. Really, what you're doing is you're looking at your life, you're looking at it forwards, you're looking at it
mm.
backwards, you're thinking about small steps, big steps, steps to pause at. Think of climbing a mountain. People don't just walk up mountains, they walk part way and then they have base camps and they strengthen themselves again and then they take another step forward.
Yes.
Stepping forward doesn't just mean it's not just climbing that ladder like the one behind me. Sometimes you only take one step and then you got to stop and sort of strengthen yourself a little bit to take the next step.
Mm. So it's not constant go. It's taking step, reevaluate, step back, look back, look forward. There's a lot of awareness in this. Like,
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of thinking about where you are and what's happening, and you can do so much of it just. And I actually like the idea of physically walking it too, because
mm,
sometimes I think we so much of it is in our minds.
yeah.
Our minds are connected to our bodies. And so often when I'm working with people, I'll take them outside, I'll take them into hallways, I'll have them walking problems
Mm.
because I believe in that sort of integration of body and mind. We solve problems not just mentally, but also physically.
We get so stuck here and we forget the rest of the body, right? Like
Yeah,
just we
yeah.
overvalue the brain and we get like the body gets frozen. You know
Walk,
something.
walk your problem. Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. Walking our problems. I love that.
yeah.
You know something really interesting. The word that came up for me just the moment you asked, we're gonna do this exercise, we're gonna walk it. The word that came up is trust.
Mhm.
Like for me to even take the first step of pushing the chair back and oh, there's a chair in the middle where I'm gonna put it. I wouldn't have known that the chair will be in my way until I stood up. There's a trusting of things will come up and I will deal with it when they come up. I can't figure it out from here launching too far forward. I have to take a step now. So
Yeah.
that's the word. That's a word came up. And the other thing that I found interesting, there's a in mindfulness, this getting comfortable with not knowing,
Mm.
not knowing, uncertainty, like finding ease with not knowing. And there's a curiosity, like, let's see. I wonder, can you say a little bit about that, this working with uncertainty before we continue with this beautiful motto?
Well, the term and goes back to a guy called H.B. Galat. He
Mm,
brought up the term positive uncertainty.
mm,
And he said it isn't just about being positive about the future and everything. There's also uncertainty. And we create these, he said we actually live in an era contradictions, like where things you think, well, if you're uncertain, how can you be positive? Or if you're positive, how can you be uncertain? And there should be different sides, right? And yet we have to learn to hold both of them. We have to use both our hands to hold uncertainty
mm,
and being positive. And so it's not a matter of banishing positive, being positive, and it's not a thing of banishing the uncertainty. The uncertainty is going to be with you. But at the same time, you
mm,
have to be positive about taking that action. I love that idea because I think we do live, in an age where there's, one of the other terms we use in my field is planned happenstance.
Planned happenstance.
Yeah. So got to have a plan, but be ready for the unexpected. And both of those kind of, again, holding both of those together. Planful, yes, you got to be planful, but you have to be ready for something that's kind of going to come. Going back to the story I told you about my father. I mean,
Mm,
he was being very successful at what he
mm,
was doing. doing all the right things, and yet you get hit from the side,
Yeah.
you and you don't expect it.
Yes.
Unexpected, the uncertain, the who knows. Even when you think you have it all worked out, you can still get smacked on the side of the head and have to reorient and rechange yourself and things. So these kind of paradoxes. I mean, a guy called Charles Handy talks about we live in an age of paradox.
Holding both,
Yeah, and
not as opposite. Yeah.
opposites have to be held at the same time. And
Mm,
if we banish one, then if you take away one, you leave yourself open to the uncertain forces that'll hit you if you just worry always about the uncertainty. And I don't know if this can, then you're
mm,
frozen into inaction.
yeah. It feels that's very honoring. Like, yes, there might be like fear around the uncertainty, but I can take positive action. It feels, it doesn't mean pushing down the uncertainty. It's acknowledging it. That's here, and I can kind of exist. And really, this is very, very mindfulness is kind of coexist. I can be in both. I can have
Yeah,
anxiety or fear, and I can be present. I can be at peace with it here and move forward.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly the concept of a colleague of mine who Ishu Ishiyama
Mm.
from Japan.
Ah, wonderful. Yes.
He talks about making friends with your fears. And
Yeah.
I don't think I really quite understood that initially, but I think I do now. The idea of holding the fear, but also the courage to go ahead anyway, hold
Mm.
both at the same time. It's not
Mm.
like it's not there. It's just that I'm going to do it anyway.
What a beautiful visual. I mean, for the listeners too. It's like holding hands with a fear. It's not pushing or blocking or resisting or denying or
Yeah.
avoiding. It's like, holding hands or putting hands around fear. Hello, fear. And you're with me here today, fear, and then taking a step, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If it's a business decision, if it's something around a relationship, or it could be even as simple as connecting with a friend. Sometimes people isolate. It's like, oh, yes, it may feel awkward to reach out to someone, feel that awkwardness, and reach out to that someone. Or it could be starting an exercise
Yeah.
regime. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to. I don't feel like it. Yes, you can hold hands with this. I don't want to. And
Yeah.
go ahead.
Do it.
Do it anyway. Yeah.
So
Very
the
useful.
courage and the fear going hand in hand together. So that takes you into the next part of this,
Yes.
which is the goal setting and planning.
Planning.
It makes sense that you set goals and what do I want to achieve and where am I headed and how am I going to get there? What are the steps that I need to do to exploring possibilities? Another concept that I've used, I guess, over the years is difference between possibility and probability. And people often think about possibility thinking is kind of imagining all the things that are the options. But we often live in a world of probability thinking where you're saying, well, what are the chances of that happening? And so we have to, in a way, be aware of probabilities, but not be held too tightly by it. We have
Mm.
to loosen the binding of probability, which is all right. What's the chances that somebody from small town Saskatchewan would be here and this, what's the chances? No one in my family had ever gone to university. Uh,
Oh.
I was the first one, what are the chances, when you sort of start talking about this? Probability is really, I mean, it's a mathematical concept, right?
Hmm. Probability.
Probability that
Yeah.
what are the chances, you sort of think about that. It's bigger than mathematics because it's saying, sometimes things
Mm.
happen and you just would never in your wildest dreams you couldn't have imagined that it would happen that way.
That's possibility.
That's possibility.
Yeah.
And learning to dream, hold your dreams and to keep your
Mm.
dreams and the possibilities alive. Because
Mm.
many people I found in the helping profession will snuff those dreams out. They'll try to put the fire out of the dream. And
Mm.
especially if you're somebody who coming from another country and you've had one experience and and you immigrated, um, there's a tendency to still, you have an identity and someone who you were there, and
Yes.
now people sometimes they'll try to push you down and say,
Mm.
don't. I remember working with a person who was, I think he was from Guatemala,
Mm.
and he said something about, he broke into tears and he said, well, they say I can only be a cook. He said, I was a professor of economics in Guatemala. Your dream, you never give up. And the dream might not be to be a professor again, but to be more in touch with what you like and enjoy and things like this, like it's keep some of those dreams alive. And I find
Mm.
that when I'm working with people, I never take the dream away. People are good enough at destroying their own dreams without
Yeah.
me adding on to, like they might say, I want to be an astronaut. Okay, you're an astronaut. That's
Go for it. Yes.
go for it. So what are you going to need to do get, this is where the planning starts coming
Mm.
into it. What do you need to do? Well, you got to start, what about those mathematics classes? And, you sort of start talking to people about the steps and the planning, and sometimes they adjust along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. But they discover it from themselves that maybe astronaut is not what I like. I don't even like math. I can't stand physics. That's going to be a bit of an issue going that path. so,
Yeah.
so this thing of like allowing others and allowing ourselves to dream
Yeah.
and then explore. And I think that's it's kind of this really gives us permission to enter a world of possibility that you're naming. Like a lot of times we don't give ourselves that time because
No.
what are other people going to think? I think I should do this. Other people think I should do this, or other people see me as this. We kind of pigeonhole ourselves in a certain identity, as you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find sometimes the exploration of experience at a deep level
Mm.
really helps you get a sense of like what is it that you enjoyed about, like even if you've left a job, you say, well, what did you like about that job? What were the pieces that were good? What were the
Mm.
pieces that weren't so good? And rather than, well, I don't want to do that again, say, well, I really liked working with a young man who's working in a grocery store. And well, I
Mm.
really like working with the machines, behind the,
Mm.
like when the stuff came in, we lifted up all the, put all the products on the shelves and all, he didn't like a lot of other things in the grocery store, but he liked, some piece of it. And so
Yes.
then, well, maybe how can we expand that? And how can you get paid for doing something like that? So it's really this idea of goal setting and planning is helping people set goals and make plans, but then they have to actually do something with it. And that's
Yeah.
which is implementing.
Hmm.
And implementing is, it's where you are. I mean, I've known so many people over the years who they spend so much time planning, but they actually don't ever get
Don't
anything.
think, yeah.
Nothing, the shed never gets built,
Yeah.
but they have all the plans and they have all the equipment and they have,
But no,
they're
yeah.
so there is sometimes, and you're really often never ready. You
Mm.
just have to try
Yes.
to do something.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's the action piece. The implementing is the action piece.
Another action piece, because all of these are action pieces.
Ah.
So it's another action piece. It's the piece where you finally say, okay, even though I don't have everything together, I'm going to start building. I'm going to
Okay.
do something here with this plan. But then, of course, what happens is what you start doing it, and you get into the next phase, which is adapting. It doesn't work exactly how my daughter's oldest son, Felix Fruling, who's an
Mm.
amazing photographer. He decided in high school they have to do this capstone project.
Mhm.
And as part of that project, he decided to build himself a infrared camera.
Oh, wow.
Okay, because we see only certain colors. So he wanted to build a camera where he could see the other colors through this infrared.
Mm.
process. So he found, how do young people do things? They look on Google and they look
Yes.
for a YouTube video that's going to show them how to do this. And so he did that, and he found that, oh, great, he was all ready to go. And then he found out that the camera he bought was from Britain, not from
Mm.
the United States, and they were totally different. In, like the video was of no use to him,
Yes.
and so he had to do it all through his own, he had to adapt. He thought it was going to be simple, you just follow the directions.
Yes.
And of course then everything is different and the sizing is different. And anyway, it took him 8 times. He had to
Um,
try it, it didn't work, take it all apart again,
mm.
rebuild the whole thing, solder things in different ways, learning all sorts of skills. And he said he spent the whole year working on this project.
Wow.
And finally now he's got it working, and it's one of his favorite cameras that he works with. That adapting, that willingness to try again,
Yeah.
when the thing didn't work, okay, what didn't work? And him and his photography teacher, who had never done this before either, sat down and they thought and talked and looked at it, and we'll try it this way. Still
Mm.
doesn't work.
Yes.
Just kept going and going at it. The persistence, that willingness to keep trying.
What a great example, because as you're sharing it, it made me realize this adapting is what keeps the pinwheel going as well. Because
Yeah,
if we face an obstacle and
yeah,
we just go, okay, I'm just going to stop because
yeah.
it's not fitting my original plan or goal, then the pinwheel is stopped. We're not continuing exploring new possibilities. And
That took you right back into the start again, the self-reflection and what am I
yeah.
doing? What are my skills? And how do I, envisioning,
Yes.
have a vision for this, and now let's set a new goal. So it is something that is in continuous motion,
Yes.
and the environment is, you know, supporting or pushing, and and moving things along. So it all kind of is integrated and works
Mm.
together.
I just had like a moment of like seeing clearly in my mind as you described hope,
Yeah,
because hope, like when I'm thinking about the pinwheel, this example you shared of like, oh, having to adapt, hope became the wind that get the pin moving, like
yeah,
getting
yeah.
stuck, things are not moving how I wanted. Connect to hope, key adapt, see what's next. Like it just feels like hope becomes this wind underneath our sails, under wing, what keeps it moving.
And something we haven't even written about yet, but is something that's still in a part, is what about the stick? Like
And the pinwheel, yeah, yes.
but what about the stick?
What
What's
is
the
that?
stick?
Yes.
And the stick is something we call mattering, the sense of feeling important, significant in life, mattering. I think anybody who works in this field, how important it is to have relationships, and how important it is to have positive to people's encouraging you and saying to do things. And I think hope is also stapled to that sense of mattering that we all have, we all carry
Mm.
with us, a sense of, and mattering is interesting because it happens at so many different levels. It's just, do people notice you? That's a way of feeling you matter.
Hmm.
If you think about when people are frustrated with you, or sometimes they look away,
Right.
you know? And what is
Yes.
the first reaction? If you are angry with somebody, you don't look at them, you look
Yeah.
away. I'll ignore you. The ignore.
Right.
And so mattering is attending to the person, listening to the person, incorporating them into actions that are joint projects that are
Mm.
they can work on. It's building real relationships, not just I'm doing this with you because it's a job. I had to help you out. I'm sure in the work you do when you're helping people,
Mm.
it's a job, but it's more than a job. I mean, these are
Yeah.
people to you, right? That you are actually helping and making them feel that they matter, that they're
Yeah.
important. And sometimes that kind of relationship part of moving forward is something that kind of holds hope in place.
So healthy relationship, whether it's professional, whether it's friend, um, can help us really feeling like we matter.
Yeah.
And is there something that someone can consider in helping themselves feel like they matter?
Well, one thing I think is really putting yourself with people who do value you. Sometimes we stay too long with people who are just dragging us down. You
Mm.
know, they don't encourage us. You know, I know when I'm encouraged, my possibilities enlarge. I think more, I know I have more energy to go forward.
Yes.
Somebody needs to believe in you, to believe in what you can do. And that can come from family, it can come from friends, from new friends, you know, if you
Yes. I really appreciate you saying that. And I'm thinking of everyone that's listening or watching, knowing that you matter. Maybe you can help someone in your circle feeling like they matter. It could be a word of kindness or a conversation, helping each other feel like we matter. I mean, what a gift of generosity of heart. Just helping someone feel like they matter. I want to ask you about the environment and the model. And one piece I was thinking about is, pets. I had a parrot for a long time, like
yeah,
37 years or so, and he passed away. And he just added so much joy in the family, and now I'm considering a dog. I know some people have pets, and we still have birds. We have two birds, cockatiels. So I'm wondering, is there some work that you've seen about pets and their support in the environment? Like what would you say?
pets play a huge role for people in terms
Mm.
of providing comfort and support. And something sometimes you matter because you're helping other people, but sometimes you matter because you're helping your pet. You know, you're feeding your pet, you're walking them, you're doing things for your pet. Sometimes it's not all about us. The funny thing is, as we reach out to others or our pets, or it's the caring for the other that, in sense, comes full circle back and help you feel more that you matter. You do matter. If you
Yeah.
if you wouldn't take care of that parrot or those cockatoos, then
Yes.
be there. That's part of, and so while they offer something to you, there's also something to you in the helping them, to feeding them, to walking them, to
Mm.
interacting with them, things like that. And so pets are incredibly important to people.
Being with others, taking care of pets, one example. And it made me think as well as volunteer. I often encourage people who are feeling stuck or wanting, it's like, I wonder, consider volunteering. Because for me, it actually made a drastic difference in my life. It led me to this career. And it was back in 98. I was doing sales at the time. I had finished a business degree. I just, maybe I'll do some volunteer work. And it was a local food bank. That literally changed my life because I loved being with people. I felt so good leaving, knowing I'm being a part of someone's journey. And it led me to think like, maybe I should change career here. And then I
Sure.
read to like, counseling work and all of that. So helping others feel like they matter is I can see why you included that as
Yeah, I
in the
think
model.
it's, because we often think about, well, how can I feel I matter? Well, start by helping other people feel they matter. You have the power within you to make other people feel that they matter. And if you start with that, then it'll just roll right over you as well.
What a beautiful encouragement for everyone, helping others feel like they matter. I have to tell you, that the time has truly flown by. It kind of took me back to you've supported me in really feeling like I matter. UBC days, the graduate work, and the support you helped me through, and letting me really dream, letting me what was going in my heart. And I can't thank you enough, truly. And I know I shared this with you before we started recording, but you've been an incredibly significant, positive being in my life who had really like helped me dream, helped me build, helped me step back and follow what's in my heart. So I just wanted to thank you. It really is such an honor and privilege after all these years to reconnect. And the joy I have like this like silly happy inside of me that I get to share like this opportunity of the chance I had to be with you those years. So I just want to thank you. And I know I would love to have more conversations with you, of course. Thank you for everything you've done for me. And thank you for everything you've done for so many people. And you continue to do so generously, open heartedly, sincerely, with such openness. So I just want to thank you. I want to encourage people, if curious about this, they can, how would they reach? What's the best? I can put it in the show notes in terms of website. Is it the Hope
Uh,
Action?
Actually, the work I'm doing with my daughter comes under something called double knot dot works. And you can connect with me through that company. That's right there.
Doublenotworks.com.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's
And I'll put that in the show notes as well for people. And I'll put the link as well to the Hope Inventory, Hope Action Inventory, which is so worth it. Like it's so good. Gives you practical questions to think about. And I think you have also online workshops so people can, the different times of the
and we're
year.
doing
They,
a lot of workshops, a lot of groups, training, different parts of with COVID, we've been doing a lot of things online, but now we're starting to go out and do some other working with groups in different parts of the country and stuff like that.
yes. Yes. So they can reach you through the website, and anyone also interested in career exploration and guidance as well.
Yeah, and thank you for your comments because it's makes me feel I matter. Like that's how mattering gets passed on, right?
Mm.
Sort of think about it, and we often the interesting. One last story. I've got
Yeah.
so many.
Oh, I love your stories. Yes.
Another graduate student, I won't tell you his name. He heard a rumor that I was very ill and that I was close to passing. So he sent me a wonderful letter full of, how much he appreciated me and all things like this. And I think, we always have these remembrances after the person is gone. I think to myself, wouldn't it be better to have these before the person leaves?
Yes.
And so if you're in a situation where, and then I had to sort of send him back a note saying, well, the rumors of my passing are simply that, rumors and unfounded rumors at that.
I'm
So
here. Yeah.
actually, they're still here, very much alive and working and doing things. So anyway, thank you for your kind words because that makes me feel I matter. So
Thank you. Truly thank you. And I'm wondering, any final words for the listeners or viewers, just parting words.
parting words are just one step at a time. Don't try to
Yeah.
do it all. Don't try to be something you're not. Just take that step, see where you're at, pause, see what you need to do. Things happen. Just get out of the busyness and remember that step as you're facing whatever you're facing.
Thank you so much, truly, for your generosity of time and wisdom. And I want to thank all the viewers for listening and watching. If you found this useful and helpful, feel free to share. And if you haven't done so, subscribe. Thank you again. May your moments be full of ease and may you be present in as many of them. Thank you.
Thank you.